pointing at me and a microphone and whatever. I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, something like that. Okay, good. Take care, bye. Ask me anything. 50. I started April 1st, 1968 at a small shop in Großburg-Wedel. But there I was only for April, May, June, July, August, for 5 months. It was a regular repair shop, and I started there as an apprentice.
Why you choose to be a mechanic of Unimogs?
I was there on a regular repair shop. They repaired everything, and I didn't like it very much. And then my dad got me a job at Mercedes. September 1st, 1968, I started at a company in Germany, in Hanover, and they were a Mercedes-Benz Unimog dealer. And there I stayed until about 74. And then I went to a Mercedes truck division, where we repaired and fixed heavy trucks and big engines, till 78. And in 78 I went to make my master's degree in Hildesheim. And in 79 I applied for immigration to Canada. Why? I wanted to go more hunting. And
it's the reason for immigration.
Yeah, sure.
Wow.
Yeah. What else?
Political situation.
The political situation wasn't anything great, but when you're 20 or 26, 28, the political situation is not the main issue. Girls and hunting is more important at the time. And yeah, so in 79 I went to Bonn and applied for Canadian immigration. That took 17 months. And then in 1981, in January I believe it was, that's when I immigrated to Canada. Yeah.
And when you start working with Unimogs, what serial number, what type was the latest model?
406. It started out with 2010, 401, 411, 406, actually U65 first, and then 406, and then U900, 416, U1100. With a round nose?
Yeah.
Yeah, they all had some sort of a round nose. No, they were in farming and in commercial and industrial applications. You know, the German, or there's power companies in Germany, they use them. Then there's drilling companies, they use them for deep drilling.
Have you ever worked at that
Oh
time
yeah, of course.
with the military?
Lots. Unimog 404 with the gas engine. That's
so
what they had.
The military guys call you, or you?
No, they always brought their Unimogs into the repair shop, and we repaired them.
So they don't have their own repair shop, even though.
Yeah, they have their own repair shop. That is just only for their own entertainment. They never get anything done with the military. It started with the Unimog 404, and Martin Schließler, a friend of mine, and who passed away many years ago. He was very, what should I say, well entrenched in the Mercedes hierarchy in Germany. Martin Schließler?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was very close with the management at Mercedes-Benz. He was the first one who crisscrossed Africa in a Unimog 404 and an ambulance body on top. But the ambulance body was converted into some sort of a camper. That started quite early, but then you have to consider the political situation not only in Germany but in Europe. You know, the first few years, and probably maybe 20 years or 25 years, Germany after the war, they had other things on their mind than building big expensive campers and traveling the world. I would say there were some well-off people. They did travel with the Unimog, mostly to Africa, because they could literally drive there. And then after Germany reunited and the euro was introduced, and the euro eventually became a stronger commodity or fund than the US dollar, That's when all of a sudden Europeans thought, okay, now we can afford to drive to North America, because all of a sudden the euro was worth more than the US dollar, and things looked like they were cheaper over here. And in North America, I would say 20-30 years ago, life was probably cheaper than it is in Europe. So that's when people all of a sudden in the late 80s, that's when they showed up with campers, and a lot of them on the Unimog. You mean you as the user of the Unimog, and you want to travel with it, and me on the repair side.
Yeah, you're with the repair side quite happy here. People are traveling like, I don't know, we want to travel.
Oh, everywhere. Yeah,
everywhere,
they're going
right?
around the
But
world.
then we will be broken somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with the operator. In this case, it's you. So like Anton said already, how often should I check the hub reduction? How often should I check the oil level? I see people, they have a lot of problem with them. And then I see people, a friend of mine, Dave Speckman, he is in Australia right now. He traveled, I think, around the globe already 3 times with the Unimog U1300L, the same like yours. He built his own body on the back, but very close to the ambulance body, you know, with a little slanted centerpiece. No, and it's very basic. He drives around a lot. He does his own repairs. He does need repairs. In general, the Unimog is, I would say, more suitable if you really want to go off-road and you leave the pavement. That's where the Unimog shines. If you want to do a lot of traveling and you stay mostly on somewhat established roads, I would say a 4-wheel drive truck is better, because it's more built for driving. The Unimog and long distance driving. The Unimog is more for off-road.
Do you think, as a mechanic, how far we need to know the car to be able to be
have minimum trouble with it?
Yes.
I don't think you need to know very much. I think if you pay attention to the basics, you know, you do your oil services whenever it is recommended, let's say depending on driving conditions. If you drive in very dusty conditions, you need to replace the air filter probably more often than if you drive a lot here on the west coast, where it's always wet and damp and you don't have much dust. But if you go up the Dempster Highway up northern Canada, there's lots of dust there, and you probably need to do an air filter change more often. And you have to pay attention to tires, because all of a sudden you're on coarse gravel roads, so that makes a big difference. And then it depends on how heavy the vehicle is. If it is very heavy laden and you drive fast on unestablished road, potholes, big rocks and so on, then you probably gonna need another, or you need to repair the springs, or you should have maybe a spring on board, because if the spring breaks, all of a sudden driving becomes difficult.
I mean, I'm from Russia, I know how to drive the manual gear, right? Yeah. Then in Canada I have to go and finish the Z endorsement to be able to drive, right?
The air endorsement.
Yeah. We call in Ontario it's Z endorsement.
Yeah.
So, but I still, this whole air system seems for me like something which I'm afraid, I know nothing about it.
And leave it that way. You don't need to know much about it. Because if there's something goes wrong, you hear it hissing somewhere.
Yeah.
There you're losing air, and then you have to basically address it right there and see what it might be. Yeah. But then, you know, having repair parts along, most likely you don't have them, because you don't know what might fail. On your Unimog you have an air dryer, and there's a big cartridge on there. And that cartridge should be regularly replaced. The cartridge is not cheap, but you can unscrew it by hand, and I could show you one if you want to. And that cartridge keeps the air system clean. It dries out any condensation. It keeps anything what's in there, because you got steel lines, the plastic lines. The newer vehicles all went away from steel and go into plastic lines, because the old steel lines, they start to rust on the inside, and rust creates problems. It goes into valves, things start to leak, and so on. So that is when it's good that you have an air dryer. It is a filter with a heating element which dries out the air, the medium or the air gets rid of the condensation. Yeah, but the Unimog is all still new to you.
Yeah, yeah.
You haven't driven it 5 years or so.
No, I'm a beginner.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Do you have an owner's operator's manual?
Yes.
You do? In English? Okay, good. Did you read it?
Not everything. Yeah. Oh yeah, what about the cylinder to tilt the cabin? It's pretty expensive unit, right?
Yeah.
Is it if something is broken, let's say somewhere in the middle of Mongolia?
Yeah.
You always need
Then
to repair.
Then you need 8 Mongols to lift it up.
Yeah. Possible to lift it without the cylinder and without the crane? Is it possible to lift it somehow?
No, because you cannot get enough people under there to lift it. You know, there's only room. They have to go right up to the corner of the cab and then lift. And
so the only option is to take it from
park under a tree with a big branch and then pull it up. No hydraulic oil.
It's from oil.
Yeah, yeah, has a little pump on it, and you clip that on here. So
I've heard about this breathers for the planars.
For what? For the planetaries?
Planetaries.
Yeah.
Do you think I need them in general?
I don't know. Did you have any air loss?
No.
Any oil loss?
No.
Did you check? No, you know, you got the... Here, come here. The drain plug, the inspection plug, and the filler plug. You fill here, and when it comes out here, that's the right level. So oil level is like this.
Oh, okay.
So you should open this one once in a while and check if that is okay. If there's no oil coming out, then you have to add. Did you ever did that?
No.
Bad. That is a vent pipe modified by myself, because a lot of Unimogs, they have problems with oil migrating from the hub reduction on the front axle to the axle tube, and people wonder why. And this here is modified so far that I cut this little 5mm pipe apart and I braced in this 12mm pipe. So when oil travels up in here, pushed up by warmer air, as soon as the oil and air comes or becomes pushed into here, the oil bubble will basically blow apart, and the oil will eventually have time to travel back as soon as you, let's say, park in the evening and the vehicle components start to cool off. Oil will travel back into your hub reduction. These myself.
Okay.
This is the breather. You see, this goes on where the breather pipe comes on,
Okay.
and through this small pipe the oil from the air gets pushed up and disappears out of the hub reduction. When the oil gets in here, the bubble bursts and the oil stays here, the air goes out, and the oil, as soon as you park, the oil runs back in. This is better than anything else, and it works, and it is $60. And it's made by me, and it's not 400 like they do in Germany, euros. In fact, you have to cover them up, because you see, I extended these pipes. This end was here. I cut them, put these in between, and then I cut them where I need them.
How often should I do this? Like every 1,000 kilometers?
You know, some of Unimogs, they lose a lot of oil, but then there's other issues, and some of them use very, very little or none. And you should probably maybe check it for 1,000, 2,000 kilometers, 2-3 times, and then if you never see the level change, then you don't have to check it that often. Then you can check it every 3,000 or every 5,000 kilometers, but you don't want to run it dry. You don't want that.
But I still don't understand how it happens. Why air goes there?
Why air comes out there?
Yeah, why there?
Now, when you drive, the axle warms up and the oil warms up, so it expands. So that's where it pushes out the oil.
And then air goes back.
So when the air goes, when the air or the oil cools down, air comes back in, but it does not. No oil comes back in because the vent line goes in the axle on the top. You see, this is the axle, and the vent line comes out from here and goes out, and it goes in there. So there is no oil in here. As soon as it cools down, air goes back in, but no oil. But oil is right up to here, and oil gets pushed out.
Why did they do this?
If they had just made this pipe bigger, then there's no problem. And the funny part is, not all the Unimogs do it. And some of them it's really bad, and on some of them they have no problem. But I made a lot of these pipes and they work.
What happens on the back?
In the back you have no problem.
No, why?
Because on the back, the hub reduction is bolted to the axle tube. But on the front, you have the hub reduction, then comes the U-joint, and then comes the axle tube. So there is no connection. Oh, you're going to have another 5-8 days here to learn. So.
What else should I check regularly? Like whatever I written in the manual, right?
You should check the oils in the hub reduction regularly. Let's say once a week.
In front?
Yeah, in front. You should check the back too until you get a feeling for the vehicle. Is everything okay? You know, because some of them, when they get sold, they have issues. There's hidden surprises. What you should do into the diesel tank, once a month, twice a month, depending on how much you drive, you should put a couple liters of engine oil in there.
In the tank?
Into the fuel tank.
A couple of liters?
Yeah.
Liters?
Liters. Yeah, you can put a gallon in too. It's good. It's the same as if you drink good vodka.
In the tank?
In the tank. Yeah, not the vodka, just the oil.
Okay, in the full tank?
In the fuel tank.
Not empty. Full.
In the fuel tank.
Not full.
What? Not full.
Full or
not
empty?
full. No. Doesn't matter. Just put 2 liters in, fill it up. Okay.
I never.
It's good for the diesel.
Once a month?
Yeah, once a month. Yeah. It depends. If you don't drive it all months, then you don't have to put oil in, you know. But if you drive 500-600 kilometers, no, you probably won't drive that much. You might want to drive 200-300 kilometers a day maximum, and then you relax somewhere, park.
So I should get like always oil with me.
Cheap oil, 20 weight oil. 20 weight, you know. Yeah. Single weight, it doesn't need to be 530 or 1040, which is more expensive. Just single weight, 10 weight oil, engine oil. It's good.
It's all synthetic, right?
It doesn't need to be synthetic. No. Just regular cheaper oil. It's good for the fuel injectors. Good for the injectors.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then check the belts. You know that they're always tight. Yeah, checklist so that when we go at it, that we do everything all at once and on 3 days. It has air brakes by Canadian law, but Canada is before Christ here, especially BC. Here in North America, if the master brake cylinder is not directly connected to your brake pedal, it sits on the side, on the left side, on the chassis, on the Unimog behind the cab. And an air line goes to a brake pot. And when you hit the brake pedal, the brake pot gets air, and that operates the master brake cylinder.
So it just helps to...
It helps. It extends your foot, yeah. So if the brake cylinder, the master brake cylinder, would be directly connected to your brake pedal by a push rod, mechanical connection, then it would be just straight hydraulic brakes. But you got an air line going to the master cylinder. That's why in North America they consider it air brakes.
But also, as I understood, I'm completely stupid idiot, but
no,
also you need the air to
shift?
To shift between two...
Yeah, you don't need air to shift. You can go for the first 4 gears
without
air, but then in order to get to the next 4 gears, 5, 6, 7 and 8, you need a shift cylinder which shifts a planetary gear in front of the first 4 gears. Then number 1 gear becomes number 5, number 2 gear becomes number 6, number 3 gear becomes 7, and number 4 gear becomes 8. It's the same gears in the transmission.
And what happens if it's broken? You can only move as a tractor very slowly.
Then you can only go 4 in the first 4 gears, or you have to climb underneath on the right side, and there's a lever like that, and you push that lever. And then you can only go in 5, 6, 7, and 8. Yeah, but it's an emergency, you know. But for that, it's good to have the hydraulic ram to lift the cap. So that's one thing to the other, Yeah. And the bigger Unimogs, like the orange one and the green one out there, they're basically just a tractor and implement carrier. You can put a lot of tools on, like snow plows, snow blowers, mowers, and all kinds of things. But they're not really made for rough off-road. Here you see the air dryer cartridge. There is different cartridges available. Not one fits all, but 2 or 3, and you can cover all the vehicles what you might need. But your Unimog need a specific one, and I'm not sure. I have to look at the part number if this one would fit your Unimog or not. It's right in the middle under your camper. Above, in front of the rear axle. It's green because it's painted over. Yeah. Military. When I came over to Canada, a friend of mine from Germany, he visited me, and we went hunting together, and we seen the North American pickups, and we just laughed. We thought, this is funny that they have these Mickey Mouse pickups here. We needed something better. So we bought 4 Unimogs, brought those over, and we sold 2, and we kept 2. And when he went back, I asked him to call Mercedes in Germany if they wanted to start a Mercedes Unimog dealership in Canada.
And you were in Vancouver?
Yeah, I was here in Vancouver, And in a very short time they came back, yes, they wanted to do something. And then representatives from Mercedes-Benz Canada, they contacted me. And then 2 gentlemen came flying over from Toronto, and they inspected my facilities. I was in Surrey at the time. And they made a list of tools what I needed. A lot of them I had already, and the tools which I still needed or did not have, I had to purchase, and I did. And then for a few months I was BC service dealer for Mercedes-Benz Unimog.
What means for a few months?
For a few months. It's for a few months, and then after a few months, I became service dealer for Western Canada, which is BC, Alberta, and the Yukon. And then I don't remember how long it took, a year or 2 maybe, or maybe even 3 years. Then I became a general distributor and importer for all of Canada, and that lasted till 2002. And in 2002, Mercedes invited me for a meeting. First of all, they did not extend my general dealer agreement, and they invited me for a meeting in Seattle and asked me if I would be willing to work with them and for Mercedes-Benz and take over the sales and marketing of Unimog in Canada. And I told them that I would, but not under all of their expectations, meaning that I had my doubts that the way they wanted to start selling and marketing Unimog, I was sure that that would not work, and I told them that. And that's when they told me that I wasn't really informed. They had their Freightliner network set up, and they were sure that they would sell Unimogs through their Freightliner network, and I told them that wouldn't work.
At the time, how many of these vehicles were here? 1,000, 500, 100?
Nobody knows how many vehicles were here, because they were selling Unimogs, the older, smaller ones, through Case. Mercedes had an agreement with Case. Case did probably the best marketing and sales effort anybody did in North America so far. In their best time, they sold up to 500 Unimogs a year. And so Mercedes had different ideas. We didn't get along with each other. They started their own sales organization with Freightliner, and as I predicted in 2002, it did not fly. In 2008, 2007, Mercedes pulled out of the market and left a bunch of unhappy Unimog customer basically stranded in North America.
So those who bought the I don't know, tractors and I don't know in English all the names of these
implements.
Yeah, vehicles, they don't get a support, or they have to find a mechanic like you who understands something?
After Mercedes basically left the market or abandoned the market, they had a sales or service person in Portland, where the Freightliner head office used to be. But that guy had absolutely no clue about Unimogs, and he was there just as a basically collected his paycheck, and he had a phone number where he could answer the phone, but he had absolutely no qualifications. But that's the way it was. And in about 2008 or 2010, I built my own shop here, which I didn't really want to use as a shop the way I do now, but after Mercedes pulled out of the market, all of a sudden people were looking for business, and they remembered me, and they all came back. I mostly deal just with the Unimog, but we have repaired some of the accessories which are camper related also.
So anybody ever ask you to build a camper?
Yeah.
Have you ever built a camper?
Yeah. We built a few bodies, just the shell, and the people themselves, they equipped the inside. They put their own beds and their own facilities, whatever they wanted in the electricity, water heating, and so on.
So you don't, when you create the box, you don't put the water
We don't
tank
put anything
inside?
on the inside, no.
How you made the box? From what material? Not from iron, from these
No.
panels?
Yeah. I think GFK they call it. Or,
GFK?
yeah, laminated fiberglass panel.
Fiberglass, which are few panels
Insulated,
together, isolated panels.
Yeah, they have a fiberglass skin and a foam core. And this year it's very slow because of this COVID-19. People don't travel from out of the country, you know, and there's a few people in Canada or North America. They travel locally. Some of them show up, some of them they do not. After people for a certain length of time have a Unimog, let's say in this case, they become familiar with repairing or do minor repairs, like, you know, replacing brake pads or doing an oil change themselves. But if they have then bigger repairs, axle, transmissions, engines or so, then a lot of them, they come to us. And a lot of them, they just ship an engine or an axle, or Tyler flies there. He just flew to, half a year ago, he flew to Salt Lake City. Actually, he drove there. He flew to Ontario to repair a Mercedes truck. So we do whatever people are prepared to pay us for.
Have you ever traveled somewhere on not long distance, but have you used Unimog as your camper? Or
No.
No?
It's too slow for me.
So when you hunt, do you have a dog?
I used to, not anymore.
Not anymore, you hunt yourself?
I have a dash hound, but we don't take him hunting. It is just in the house. But I used to have a German short hair.
So why a mechanic sitting in the middle of the dream workshop full of Unimogs all over? Why don't you use it as your basic car? You don't need it. You don't go off-road. You don't want it.
Yeah, I got my truck. That's what I use.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's my camper. I grab it with my forklift and put it on and go.
But why, if you know everything about Unimogs, why don't you use Unimog yourself? There's like so many people dream.
I do, but not for traveling.
Why?
The truck drives better.
Faster.
No, just better.
What do you mean better? More comfortable?
Yeah, it has a longer wheelbase. Longer wheelbase is better. It's more comfortable to drive when I go hunting. I put it on the trailer.
What's going on with the doors?
With the doors, they're right there. The doors are right here.
Why they are like material?
They're canvas doors, yeah. So
they're made of material.
You can easily take them off. The deer's not that big. No, we freeze it. Freeze it in the freezer.
How often do you go hunting? When you feel that you need to go hunting when you're tired?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I'm going on the by the end of September. I go hunting again for 10 days. But I hunt in Germany too. Whenever I go over there, I hunt in Germany.
What about ducks and all birds?
No, I don't. No, I don't waste time with that. Here you see, when I was in Germany last time, we built a tree stand. A friend of mine and I did. You see, it's not finished yet, but there we built a tree stand.
It's to hide and to wait for them.
No, it's not to hide. It's just sort of to sit above the ground so you have better view in case something shows up. See, there's another one. We built that one a few years ago. That's one of my hunting friends over there.
What about wild pigs?
Yeah, there's lots of them around there too. Here, see, this is the camper we built. This is the camper we built last year. You see, this is a truck.
So you build it, but there is no even windows.
No. Windows the customer does himself. We just built this. This was on the Yukon border. This is my truck with my camper, and that's my Jeep. Ross Bermatov. There's our freezer.
Freezer for the meat?
Freezer for meat, yeah. We got a generator so we can have electricity.
And right, you can...
Yeah, this is all crown land, like government land. Anybody can hunt there. As long as you're Canadian, you know. That's not right. And let's say if you have a stream or water going through your property, the owner of the property, left or right, they have to leave enough room along the shore that you, if you wanted to go fishing, that you can walk. If there is a creek going through, you can go along the shore and you can go fishing. The property owner, left and right, he can have whatever animals there also, he cannot stop you.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So are you happy here in Canada?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Now let's say I would not go back to Germany. Am I happy? Not really. There's room for improvement. But you know, you have to, what should I say, make up your mind eventually, and you have to put down priorities. What are you really after? You see, here in Canada, I can do what I want, basically. There is limitations, but I can do what I want. In Germany, that is part of why I left Germany. I wanted to start my own business in Germany. And then you go through a process. Eventually you come to a point that you can say, okay, I go to the municipality or to the government and I want to have a building permit to build a shop, in my case. And then there is some person sitting there on some desk, and that person goes home with 800 or 1000 marks or euros a month, and that person can stop me what I want to do. I don't go for that. If I want to do something, I'm gonna do it. In Canada, I go to the municipality and I say this and this is what I want to do, and in 90 to 98% they're gonna say yes, fill out the inquiry, fill out the building permit, go ahead and do what you want to do. Now in Canada, what bothers me most, I mean, Canada is big, as we all know, and we have not very many people. But I think we have a lot of not very well educated people. There is improvement there, possible, and should improve. And I mean, what can you say? You know, in Europe there is more history, and people over there, yeah, they have a little different lifestyle. It depends what anybody or everybody wants. What do you expect? For me, I want to be able to hop in my truck, and like you said, I want to go out in the bush, and I go where I want to go fishing or hunting or whatever. I get the hunting regulations for free, and then I see, oh yeah, there I can hunt moose, there I can hunt deer, there I can hunt elk or bear or whatever, and that's where I go.
And your mom is still alive?
Yeah.
How old is she?
93.
And where is she?
Hanover. In Hanover.
Hanover,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it is in a way. It was built by Unicat, and then it traveled around the world a few times.
A few times.
Oh yeah. And
Wow.
yeah, eventually the people which owned it, they settled down in Argentina, and 2, 3, 4 years ago, I'm not sure when, they sold it to a fellow in Germany, and apparently he lived in it for 2 or 3 years, and then a year and a half ago he sold it to a fellow in Anchorage.
And how the car, it travels by itself or by a boat? How it ended up here as a monument?
Yeah, I mean, of course from Europe it comes by boat. They bought it in Germany in a stage of disrepair, let's say. And so when I was in Germany a year and a half ago or 2 years ago or whenever it was, the Unimog was at a friend of mine's place, and I brought it to the port, and then we shipped it over to, not necessarily cheaper, but in Germany nobody wanted to do because the job was too big for them. A friend of mine, I asked him to do it, and he says no, he's not going to do it. This thing needs $100,000 repairs, so ship it to you and then you do it. It was abused, and it was not maintained for probably the last 10 or 15 years. Regular maintenance, and it cost you a little bit of money every year, every day, every month, whatever. Or you drive it until it doesn't drive no more, and then all of a sudden you end up with a big repair. Apparently this one got stuck in Iceland in a creek, and it ran full of water, the axles, and they never drained the axles of water. They just kept driving, and that wrecked both axles, front and rear. They drain everything. With the oil out, the water comes out too. But if
How
you don't
it
do
gets
it,
in?
oh,
It is-
if you park it underwater overnight, water gets in, and water finds its way in.
So
Vent lines, you know. Yeah.
if you cross the, by any reason, if you cross the water somewhere, after that you need to open all axles.
If you cross water or go through water and you're still driving and everything functions, and you put this Unimog in diff lock, differential lock, front and rear, the axles get pressurized with air. So air goes in, no water goes in. After you cross the water and you're out, you can turn the differential lock off, or you keep it on in order to get better traction.
And if you don't put differential lock on and just regular drive and cross the river, which let's say cover the wheels,
Then there is a risk that you get water into the axles.
how high you can cross without problems on these vehicles like we have?
120 centimeters.
100,
It's 4 feet. 4 feet.
like this?
Not quite, but maybe, yeah. It doesn't matter. I had them in the water already up to the windshield. So that's whatever, 6 feet, 180 centimeters. But don't stop, keep going.
What to do regularly to...
Regularly check the oil in the axles. Brakes, make sure that you check if you do have an air dryer on it, replace the filter at least once a year. Replace the brake fluid at least once a year. If you have extreme conditions, maybe you have to do it twice. You know, use good oil. Make sure that the air filter is clean. Make sure that you use good filters all around for oil and for fuel. The cleaning filter is not very good. The oil filters always get replaced, so you put a new one in. On fuel filters, there are different systems. You can have a fuel filter with a water separator. So it's a bigger filter where the fuel comes to rest for a while, and water being heavier than
Going
fuel,
down.
it goes down to the bottom. And generally you have on the bottom of that water fuel separator, you have a clear glass or plastic
so
that you can see what's going on, and there's a little drain so you can let the water out. The problem with washing, when you wash a filter, why do you wash it? Because you want to get contamination out of it. Is that correct?
Yes, because you see
you see it. And what happened while you're trying to wash the contamination out of the filter, the contamination or particles, they will float around. They go on the inside, they go on the outside on the filter. You never ever get them clean. So in the end, you're not doing yourself any favor because as soon as you have fuel flowing through the filter again, the particles which now go onto the inside of the filter, they go right through the rest of the filter system. So don't start washing out the filter. That's the same thing like if you wash out toilet paper. You do that either. Yeah, Unimog has a lot more, what should I say, parts which can go wrong or which can get damaged because the way a Unimog might get used. You know, with a regular car, like the little car what you rented right now, you're probably not going to go rough off-road and try to go to the fishing lake, which is 50 miles off. Unimog, you can go to deeper river, you can go probably in rougher terrain, and so you have to consider that. You have to make sure that you don't cut your tires apart, and again, use good products in oil, use good quality filters, and use common sense. Then you won't have a problem, or you will keep the problems to a minimum. No, that's air. No, the air tanks.
Yeah, it's important to drain them.
Condensation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is no effort. You know, you have a bleeder valve on the bottom or a drain valve. You can just tap it.
I know.
And you just tap it, and as soon as you see there is contamination, let it be water or oil. If it's oil, that means your air compressor pumps oil. So you probably have to check and maintain or service your air compressor, maybe put new rings on. And if it is water, that is from condensation, then you drain it out. But getting back to water and fuel, a big problem with all these campers is that they have a lot of diesel, they carry a lot of diesel along. They got big tanks. And what these people don't know, because they're all novices, they're all well off financially, but they have next to no practical experience. The diesel pump on an engine pumps probably 8 to 10 times as much diesel through the engine in order to cool it and cool the fuel system than what the engine really consumes. So if you drive long enough, you all the time when the diesel flows through the injection system, and whatever is excess of what the engine doesn't need goes back into the tank. Eventually you warm up the diesel in the tank. If you drive long enough and your ventilation on the tank is not 100% and you open up the diesel filler cap, it goes poof.
Yeah.
So what is that? Warm air. It can't escape fast enough. So that's why when I was 16 or 7 years old, I went to a farming school because I have a farming degree. When you park your diesel vehicle, you always fill up in the evening after you shut your engine or when you're close to getting or parking your vehicle. That way you push out the warm air, which is like a cushion on top of the diesel level. The warm air goes out. With the warm air, condensation gets minimized. If you leave the warm air in, like a 400 or 500 liter tank, which a lot of these vehicles have, there's half the tank, like a comparison of 200 liters of air in there. It is warm. Overnight, you probably collect a coffee cup of water in the tank. That's where water comes from in the diesel. It doesn't come from contaminated diesel, what a lot of people say. And that's where you get water in the diesel. And
but on the tank, on top of the tank, there is a hole where you put diesel in, and on top of the tank there is another thing that I thought allows air to go out. No,
that is normally in the diesel, in the filler cap. That's where it should be able to fill out, but you see there's not enough pressure to get all your air out, and we're not talking about pressure, we're just talking warm air. There's no pressure anymore.
On top.
But it's on the top, and the warm air stays there. It doesn't go anywhere. And the condensation, as soon as nightfall, let's say, comes and the sun goes down, you create condensation. It is even worse if you, let's say, park in a way that the evening sun hits the tank on the outside. Sometimes you can touch whatever body part on your vehicle where the sun in the evening shines onto. It is like 80-90 degrees. You can't put your hand on. That's how hot it is. And that's the same on a diesel tank. And that's the way you create condensation in the diesel tank and contamination. You do need to do a wheel alignment if it's out of alignment. Again, you need special tools for it. But on the Unimog, there is limitations because the kingpins, that is where the front axle rotates around. The kingpins are welded in. There's no adjustment. So on a Unimog, you don't really need to do anything, except if you replace the tie rod that connects the left and the right wheel. That has to be adjusted. If you don't do that right, then you have abnormal tire wear.
Okay.
Germany.
What do I think about Germany? Oh, I think Germany is okay. They're very busy. They build good stuff. They got their political issues. I think this time what happened between 33 and 45 is over. Germany paid for it. That's the same thing if you murder somebody and you sit 30 or 40 years in jail and you come out, it's done. You should be a free person again. People might still look at you still, but you're not allowed to call him murder, you know, because he did his time. But then when you look around, the allies, you know, whenever it fits, here in North America there's a History Channel. Every day there is again the Germans, the Nazis, and this and so on. And I think to a large part that gets, what should I say, supported by Israel, because they want more money, more money, more money. You know, I think the Jewish people, they're not very good people, I think. That's the same thing with Palestine. You know, the British started that. They said that they wanted to give the Jewish people their own country. Nothing wrong with that. And that was supposed to be done in 1948. But all of a sudden it started to cost money, and there was more involved than just saying, okay, this is yours, live there. So the Brits took off, they left them there unfinished, and now look at this, what happened. Palestine used to be like this big, and Israel was like this. Now Israel is bigger and bigger, and Palestine is gone, so to speak. You know, so I mean, it's a mess down there. And what can I say? I think Germany, the younger population, you also come to a point that people get upset, and you create hatred when you keep rubbing the same wounds again and again and again. Because Germany, the people which live there now, they have nothing to do anymore with the fact what happened between 33 and 45. You know, that time is gone. And Germany should get rid of that stigma that we're still guilty. No, the people which live there now, they're not guilty anymore. That's the same thing. You feel guilt that in Russia there were 30 million people murdered. That was not your fault. You weren't to blame for it. When the Brits went to Africa, they started concentration camps. They don't talk about that, how they did in Africa. The Americans, they don't want to hear anything about slavery, that the black people were enslaved in the States. They don't want to hear anything about that. The Canadians, they don't want to hear anything about the way they mistreated the natives here, the Indians. Or no, nobody wants to hear anything of that, especially when it's 100 years ago. America is not much better. When you see how many people get murdered there from the mafia and whatever, it is terrible in the States too. You know, Canada is okay. I mean, there's a bunch of happy dummies here in Canada. You know, so yeah, the country is big enough. Just think about how it would be here if there were 250 million people living. You're already complaining that you don't have enough freedom here. You can't go wherever you want. You know, and it's still great. Last year I wanted to go hunting, and there's a big sign from the natives, nobody can go through there. So I went to their office there in the teepee and talked to them. No, they didn't want to let me go through. I didn't want to argue with those clowns either. But then I phoned the government when I was back here. They said, no, they didn't have no right to stop you there. You could have gone through. You know, this is still third world country, and in a way there is a lot of improvement necessary. But then, you know, they're still too close to the old British empire way of thinking, you know, with having lower class people and so on. I mean, the Brits, look at those clowns, they're on the rock in the North Sea. I mean, who wants to deal with those idiots? You know, I mean, the British in England, you know, I think they're completely stupid. With the kings and queens and whatever, I mean, what a mess that is.
Have you seen God Save the Queen when you got your Canadian passport?
The heck with it. No, I didn't.
You have to.
No, I don't have to at all.
But it was, for us, it was an obligatory. We have to stand and sing.
She's still there, so I don't need to save her. I told you, the French are idiots, you know. Would I go to Mars? No, I think it's pretty good down here. I don't need to go to Mars. No hunting, no potatoes, no vodka, no beer. I don't know. I don't need to be there. Do you speak English? Here,
Yeah.
give them my email so they can email me so we can set this up. It's all easy these days. As long as they speak English or German,
Yep.
we can talk.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.